Welcome all Info students, communication and management communication. We are busy with module 1 and today it's all about mass communication. Now remember the previous lesson was about the different categories of communication, and the last one was mass communication, where there are many receivers, a vast number of receivers, and so therefore there's a bit more to mass communication than just that. So this lesson is all about mass communication. For the management communication students, there is another lesson. There's a not another lesson, a whole module on mass communication, just after this, the 2 modules from now. For the straight communication students, we're going to do that in N5, so don't worry too much. But if you are really interested, just take a gander, take a look. There is a video elsewhere on this channel about mass communication and how that fits in with interpersonal communication. It's actually that video sort of explains it in more detail, but for now this is what you have to know. See, the communication process, according to Jacobson, that we did so 2 or 3 lessons ago, is a message is sent from a sender to a receiver. And so there is that flow of information from the sender to the receiver. In mass communication, it is exactly the same, except for the receiver. It's not one receiver anymore, or 2. It has now become a large, very, very large number of receivers. So that is why we call it a mass. Mass means many. Okay, so we have many communication, many people receiving this communication. So obviously there would be differences between normal interpersonal communication and mass communication. So let's have a look. Let's have a look at that. See, in mass communication, the sender represents an organization. You have, I don't know which textbook you specifically use, but I have a number of textbooks here in front of me, and the one is written by, let's see, Albie de Toué. So Albie de Toué is the sender of the message, of the information of communication in full. But Ms. de Toué did not act out of her own. She was instructed by the Department of Higher Education and Training to write this book. Same thing, if you read a newspaper, you read an article, the writer of that article did not act out of their own. They were instructed by an editor, by somebody, to write that article. Same thing with the news or anything you see on TV. People were instructed they represent an organization, and the organization tells them to send the message. Interpersonal communication, however, in interpersonal communication, the sender expresses his or her own views and not the views of the organization. So in mass communication, the message always serves a purpose. There's a reason why this information is sent to you, whether it's advertised to advertise or to inform or to entertain or to educate. You will see this in that other video that I've mentioned, but the message always serves a purpose. Whereas in interpersonal communication, the message isn't always planned. There isn't always a reason why this message is sent. I mean, you walk down the street and you say hello to your neighbor. There's no purpose. You are being friendly. There's no specific thing that you are doing. You are just being friendly, right? So in mass communication, the receivers are not known to the sender. I like watching ETV news. Is it Afrikaans? Yes, with Baron Hafke and those people. But they don't know that I'm sitting at home and I'm watching the news. Okay, so me as the receiver, I am not known to the sender of the message. Same way, Miss de Toué does not know that we are reading the textbook that she has written. On the other hand, in interpersonal communication, the receiver is usually known to the sender. You greet a neighbor, you know the neighbor. The neighbor knows you. You know each other. Okay? But then also on receivers is that the receivers receive and interpret the message individually. So you watch the news and you hear that the lockdown has been extended with another 2 weeks. And some people are very happy to hear that because they are afraid or they are enjoying the time with their family. But then others are very angry because they need to go to work and they need to they need to earn money, and then other people are angry because they are feeling caught up in the house or whatever. So every person receives a message and interprets the message eh, on their own in their heads. I'm just thinking of, I watch Seven Delan, and people tend to like a certain character, and I can't stand this character, so every person, I interpret it differently than other people. All right, so moving on. The feedback in mass communication is delayed or it's absent. Now I know in some of our grannies, they sit there and they watch TV and they shout at the TV and what have you. But the sender of this message does not receive the message at that point. You want to get feedback to them, you have to write a letter to the editor or post on Facebook on the page or something like that. But the sender does not receive the feedback immediately. They receive it at a delayed, in a delayed time frame. Okay, or it doesn't get to the sender at all. It's absent. Whereas in interpersonal communication, your feedback is immediate, it's direct, it's in your face. All right. And then, lastly, for mass communication, you need sophisticated technology. Now, when I talk about sophisticated technology, picture a radio studio. Okay. There's a microphone and headphones, and there's a mixer, and then the message gets recorded, or and it gets sent to a tower, and the tower sends it to all the machinery, technology that's needed. Even for a newspaper, I mean, a newspaper gets printed by this massive printer, and so much work goes into this machine. And this technology is needed because there are so many receivers. For all the receivers to get this message, you need technology. Whereas in normal interpersonal communication, if technology is used, think about a letter being typed. So you use a computer and a printer. It's fairly uncomplicated compared to the radio tower and the studio, everything that goes on in the studio. So if technology is used in interpersonal communication, it's quite uncomplicated. I like asking this question in the exam. I have seen it come up a couple of times, so um, pay attention. Pay attention to this one. I think it might help you. Okay. Mass communication can have its own barriers or its own interferences. And the things that influence mass communication, I'm quickly going to run through this. People who live in rural areas may not always have access to the mass media. I swear, there are places in South Africa, believe it or not, that doesn't have cell phone reception. So it's not that easy to just grab a phone and Google something um, to just have that access to the information. People don't always have the DSTV signal. Believe me or not, that happens. So people who live in the rural areas, or not even just the rural areas, people who are not so well off, they don't always have access to the internet, to DSTV, to books, to things like that. So they don't have access to the mass media. Receivers may not always get the message properly. Now, my previous place where I used to stay, I was like years ago, and the newspaper use was like delivered to my doorstep every morning, and there was a cat. And the thing used to come and mess on my newspaper every morning. So I never received the message properly because the cat decided to be a barrier. But that's now a funny story. But really, these things happen. Receivers don't, before I could afford Wi-Fi, I had those aerials, those bunny aerials on my TV, and you had to move the thing around to get just to watch SABC. Otherwise it would be so fuzzy. The screen would be so fuzzy. So receivers don't always receive the message properly, right? Not all messages will appeal to everyone. I mean, now the news is so negative that it doesn't appeal to me. I know it's important to know the news, so I read it. But at night, when my favorite news readers come on, I get up and I walk away because the news just doesn't appeal to me anymore. This negativity kind of drags you down. And the same thing, like, I mean, a lot of you don't like Sevendelan or don't like Uzalo or don't like Scheme Sam, and these messages don't appeal to everyone. But then on the other hand, there are messages for those people who don't like Uzalo. There's maybe Movango. So there will be a message that appeals to you, but not all messages appeal to everybody. And then technology is often expensive and not accessible to everyone. The this current situation that we are in is especially highlighting the expensiveness of technology. I mean, the price of data is sky high, and not everybody can afford Wi-Fi. So people don't have access to the internet. DSTV are so expensive. So not everybody can afford that. Not everybody can afford just an OpenView decoder because food needs to be bought. So technology can be very expensive and it's not always accessible to everybody. Lastly, this one I promise, very lastly, the message may be misunderstood by the receiver. I remember just a couple of minutes ago I said that every receiver receives and interprets the message differently or individually. So people can misunderstand what is being said in the media, and then it doesn't appeal to them because they have misunderstood it. So this, ladies and gentlemen, is the end of this lesson. If you have any questions, please feel free to email me at jeffkester@gmail.com. Supporting documents for this module is available in my Google Classroom code. If you haven't in my Google Classroom, if you haven't joined the classroom yet, please type in classroom.google.com in your browser. You'd click on Join Class and you type in the code FHPXIE2. Thank you very much for tuning in. I hope these lessons are of great help to you. I hope that you are enjoying them. Please give me feedback in my email as well, or leave some in the comments. And until next time, bye.